Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
Right?
Yeah. So it's a lot of stuff you got to ask yourself. You got to recommit to this game. Just like you sign a new contract, every time you get better as a player, I truly feel that you got to recommit and sign that contract with yourself every so often. Like, all right.
That single line from Kevin Durant, with LeBron James cracking up in the background, was all it took to blow the roof off the basketball world. You just don't play around with Michael Jordan's name like that, and everybody knows it. In a wild turn, NBA legends didn't just aim at KD and LeBron, they dragged the whole moment into chaos. And yes, Bronny James got mentioned in the noise too. Whether that was fair or not, the fallout got messy fast and the details are straight up wild. Let's slow it down and break this apart. This wasn't just some random podcast clip going viral. Every once in a while, something happens in sports that has nothing to do with a buzzer beater or a finals game, yet it still shakes the culture to its core. This was one of those moments that hit way bigger than anyone expected.
Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in, I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships. Like, but do I still want to do this? You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
Right?
Yeah, and then I want to come back.
It started as a calm, casual talk between two of the biggest stars of this era, but it flipped into a full-blown basketball civil war. One conversation turned into legends stepping in, voices getting louder, and reputations getting tested. Nobody saw it spiraling like this, but once it did, there was no stopping it. All of this traces back to July 8th, 2025, when Kevin Durant sat down on LeBron James' podcast, Mind the Game, for what was supposed to be a respectful, thoughtful exchange. At that point, nobody thought this episode would turn into a headline magnet or spark outrage across generations. For anyone out of the loop, Mind the Game isn't just another athlete podcast anymore. After JJ Redick left to take over as Lakers head coach, LeBron retooled the show and brought in two-time MVP Steve Nash. The focus shifted hard towards strategy, mindset, recovery, and how the game keeps evolving behind the scenes. By its third season, the podcast leaned heavy into tactical breakdowns and mental battles that casual fans rarely hear about. Durant's appearance came in 2 parts, both recorded during the offseason before his move to the Houston Rockets, and those episodes instantly became some of the most talked about moments of the season. The first episode hit on July 1st, 2025, and it felt smooth, thoughtful, and safe. Kevin Durant walked through the evolution of his elite scoring bag, showing how his game kept leveling up year after year. He showed love to the 2025 champion Oklahoma City Thunder and gave them major credit for their finals win over the Indiana Pacers. The talk stayed locked in on pace, spacing, versatility.
Well, some people say, I'm going to go 22 straight. And, you know what I'm saying? So it's a contract I feel like you got to have with yourself too, in order for you to be a, great ball player or to have a long career. That's the goal, to be in the league for 20 years. I tell you, that's the goal. However you want to get there, but you gotta recommit to yourself before you commit to anything else.
And why today's NBA looks faster, sharper, and more dangerous than ever. Durant even shouted out his new Rockets coach, Ime Udoka, and broke down why the mid-range jumper is sneaking back into the modern game. Everything felt respectful, clean, and straight basketball talk. Nobody was stressed, nobody was heated, and nobody thought controversy was coming. But then episode 2 dropped on July 8th, and that's when everything went left. The conversation drifted into deep water, the kind every all-time great eventually has to face. They started talking about the mental pressure of staying elite for decades, not years. Durant, always thinking deeper than most, started reflecting on the grind. He explained how players have to mentally sign a new contract with themselves every season, committing to the pain, the work, and the pressure, even after they've already won everything. Rings, MVPs, respect. None of it makes the grind easier. And then Durant asked the question that flipped the switch on the entire basketball world. He asked, what happens when you're 10, 12 years into your career, when you've already won multiple MVPs and championships, and you've already proven everything there is to prove? Do you still want to do this? If you blinked, you missed it. Because right there, Kevin Durant slid in a not-so-subtle reference that everybody caught. When he added, some people say, I want to go play base, ball, and then want to come back. The message landed loud.
Kevin Durant, that statement was ignorant. LeBron, why you chuckling so hard when you're supposedly a student of the game? Michael Jeffrey Jordan won 3 championships in a row. He three-peated, jackasses. And his father got killed, murdered Yeah, that summer. I think July, August, or something like that. And then MJ retired in October and dedicated himself to baseball, which is a sport that his father wanted him to play. So that's why he played baseball.
The implication was crystal clear. Jordan stepped away. Jordan took a break. Jordan didn't push straight through. And then Durant flipped it again. He praised the ones who never walked away, the ones who stayed locked in for over 20 years straight. No pauses, no exits, no breaks. Everyone in that room knew exactly who he was talking about, and the tension instantly shot through the roof. The contrast couldn't have been louder if they tried. Michael Jordan stepped away to play baseball, then came back. LeBron James, on the other hand, kept it moving nonstop, grinding through 22 straight elite seasons, and now heading into year 23 without ever pressing pause. And when Durant made his point, LeBron's reaction said everything. He broke into extended laughter, the kind that had him in stitches, straight up cackling in the background while Durant was talking. That laughter is what people locked onto. That moment flipped the switch. What started as a chill podcast talk instantly turned into open warfare in the basketball world. Steve Nash stayed in rhythm, adding to the flow, but he wasn't the face of what went viral. The internet zeroed in on Durant's words and LeBron's laugh, and that's all it took. By July 9th, 2025, the clips were everywhere. X, YouTube, highlight pages, reaction videos, millions of views stacking up fast. And just like that, fans split clean down the middle. One side brushed it off as harmless talk, just hoopers discussing different paths to greatness. Durant wasn't disrespecting, just highlighting how rare long-term commitment really is. The tone stayed casual, reflective, and even appreciative of multiple roads to the top. But the other side, especially fans protective of Michael Jordan's legacy, saw something way deeper. To them, it wasn't jokes or banter. It felt cold, dismissive, and out of touch with history. Because what Durant and LeBron either forgot or chose not to mention was the real reason behind Jordan's first retirement. This wasn't about getting bored or dodging the grind. Michael Jordan's father, James Raymond Jordan Sr., was tragically killed during a highway robbery in Lumberton, North Carolina on July 23, 1993, while resting in his car. The loss crushed Michael, who had an incredibly close bond with his father, often calling him his best friend and guiding voice. That pain followed him everywhere.
And he tried to commit himself and dedicate himself because he was in a mourning phase. You know, smart-ass idiots, because he lost his father that year. And after he played baseball, was gone from the game for about a year or two, he came back and three-peated again. So when you talk about dedication and greatness, at least know what the talking about while y'all chuckling and laughing and grabbing your ear, trying to trick this younger generation because y'all pieces of shit.
On October 6, 1993, Jordan announced his retirement, pointing to mental and physical exhaustion. But anyone who truly understands the story knows basketball had become unbearable after losing the person closest to him. In interviews and documentaries like The Last Dance, Jordan has spoken openly about how that loss drained him emotionally. Coming off a three-peat with the Bulls, the motivation disappeared. Not because he couldn't grind, but because the game no longer felt the same without his father. What made this hit even harder was the truth behind Jordan's decision. Michael's father had always dreamed of seeing his son play professional baseball. He introduced Michael to the sport when he was young and truly believed he had the talent to make it. And according to reports, their final conversation before the tragedy wasn't casual at all. They talked about retirement, about baseball, and his father kept pushing him, saying, "Do it, do it." So when Jordan signed a minor league deal with the Chicago White Sox organization in February 1994, this wasn't some random detour. Playing for teams like the Birmingham Barons wasn't about running from basketball or ducking the grind. It was a tribute, a deeply personal way to honor his father's dream and survive unbearable grief. Yes, Jordan's baseball run was short, and statistically it wasn't flashy. He hit around 200 in the minors, and nobody pretended it was legendary. But everyone back then understood the meaning behind it. This wasn't an escape from pressure. It was a son coping with loss the only way he knew how. And that's exactly why Durant's comment, paired with LeBron's laughter, cut so deep for so many people. To fans, it felt like that context was ignored completely. Social media snapped instantly. One viral post said Jordan played baseball because it was his dad's favorite sport, and because that's how he dealt with losing his best friend, his father.
AD, who ran from OKC like a bat out of hell. Not only did he run from the grind and the commitment of trying to win for an organization that didn't really win nothing at all, You ran to the team that whooped your ass. That's like Jordan running to the Pistons, man. That's like Michael Jordan running to the Pistons or the Celtics. You ran to the dudes that put their goon down on you. Then you ran to Brooklyn. When things got hard in Brooklyn, what did you do? You ran again. But you're talking about committing to the grind? What are you even talking about?
Another blunt post read, "Crazy shot at MJ when we all know it had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with his dad." One especially viral thread went even harder, directly comparing paths. It said, "Some people's father get murdered and go play baseball. Some people join a 73-win team," tying the moment straight back to long-running criticism of Durant's own career decisions. The pressure got so loud that Durant finally responded on X starting July 10th, 2025. He pushed back on accusations of disrespect and made it clear where he stood. Durant stressed his admiration for Jordan, even pointing out that he owns over $1 million worth of MJ shoes. But by then, the damage was already done, and the debate wasn't slowing down at all. Durant eventually tried to clean it up. He acknowledged that Michael Jordan retired 3 separate times in 1993, 1998, and again in 2003, yet still stands as the GOAT in many eyes. He said he respects both paths, Jordan's dominance and LeBron's unreal longevity. Durant framed the whole thing as love for basketball itself, saying, "I like basketball though, you love individuals more." But for a lot of people, that explanation came way too late. The words were already out there. The laughter had already spread across the internet, and now the legends were lining up to respond. This is where things turned up fast. If Kevin Durant and LeBron James thought this would fade away, they were dead wrong. What came next was a full-on pushback from former players, analysts, and hardcore Jordan supporters who refused to let this moment slide. The first heavy response came from a name nobody expected, Kwame Brown, and that's what made it hit harder. Kwame was the #1 pick in the 2001 NBA draft. Chosen by Michael Jordan himself when MJ was running the Washington Wizards, his career never matched the hype, and for years he was the go-to punchline in basketball jokes. But lately, Kwame flipped the script. Through his YouTube channel, Kwame Brown Bust Life, he rebuilt his voice and turned into one of the most unfiltered, fearless commentators in the game. And on this topic, Kwame didn't hold back at all. He went straight at Durant and LeBron, accusing them of ignoring the real circumstances behind Jordan's retirement. He couldn't believe that 2 so-called students of the game would gloss over the most important detail of that entire era. And he wasn't done.
Michael Jordan was averaging 30 10 times in his career, played all 82 games 9 times, 9 times an all-NBA first-team defensive player, a defensive player of the year, okay, a 6-time champion, a 6-time NBA Finals MVP, a 5-time MVP of the league, and in your 22nd or 23rd year, you still chasing. Now, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I think it's obvious who the GOAT is, in my estimation.
Kwame made it clear that Jordan's baseball chapter wasn't about ducking competition or losing his edge. It was about grief, he said. It was about a son honoring his father's dream while trying to survive an unimaginable loss. Kwame Brown's rant didn't just make noise, it exploded. Ticket TV and other major platforms picked it up fast, blasting his message everywhere. And Kwame wasn't standing alone for long, not even close. 3-time NBA champion Ron Harper, who battled alongside Jordan during the second three-peat, jumped in with his own not-so-subtle shot on X. Harper kept it short, but deadly. If he stopped 3 times, he won more than you all. That line hit hard. His point was simple and brutal. Even with 3 retirements, Jordan's 6 rings still tower over Durant's 2, and LeBron's 4. Then another former Bull stepped up. Stacey King, Jordan's championship teammate, weighed in around August 2025 and didn't sugarcoat a thing. He mocked Mind the Game, calling it the Cry Me a River podcast, and accused Durant of sneak dissing MJ. King said Durant was pushing the idea that longevity matters more than rings, and to him that argument felt disrespectful and sideways. Of course the analysts jumped in too because this debate was too big to ignore. Charles Barkley took aim at what he saw as hypocrisy. On his podcast, he questioned how Durant and LeBron could talk about commitment when, in his view, their careers were built on avoiding adversity instead of facing it head-on. Barkley drew a sharp line between eras. He reminded everyone how Jordan stood his ground against the brutal Detroit Pistons instead of running from them. He also pointed out that when Jordan arrived in Chicago, nobody was lining up to join him. The Bulls were a mess, a straight-up laughingstock. Jordan didn't flee. He built it. He turned Chicago into a global brand and one of the most iconic dynasties sports has ever seen. Meanwhile, critics argued LeBron's career followed a different blueprint. From Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland, then Los Angeles, the moves became part of the conversation once again. But the loudest voice came last. Stephen A. Smith stepped into the fire, and when he talks, the whole sports world listens. He broke down the GOAT debate piece by piece, rattling off Jordan's accomplishments with surgical precision, and his message was clear.
You don't like me because you see me calling it like I see it. You're not Michael Jordan. You're not the GOAT. You did choke in an NBA Finals. 4 consecutive fourth quarters in an NBA Finals. This man was scoring 4 points. One game, he scored 0 points. In an NBA Finals, fourth quarter. With Jason Terry or J.J. Barea guarding you. There is no explanation for that. To anybody who knows basketball, that's a choke job.
After more than 20 years, there are still things LeBron hasn't matched, and this controversy ripped that argument wide open again. But Stephen A. wasn't just throwing numbers around. He went straight to the moments that shape legacies forever. He pointed out that LeBron's career includes high-profile struggles on the biggest stage, moments Michael Jordan simply never had to answer for. The 2011 NBA Finals against the Dallas Mavericks came right back up. According to Stephen A., that series still hangs over LeBron's legacy like a shadow. No matter how long you play or how many records you stack, that moment doesn't just disappear. Stephen A. also tackled the topic Jordan loyalists never let slide, super teams. He made it clear he never saw Michael Jordan linking up with established stars the way LeBron did. Jordan didn't join Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami. He didn't pair up with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love in Cleveland, or later team with Anthony Davis in Los Angeles. Instead, Jordan built Chicago from the ground up. Through the draft, smart trades, patience, and years of pain. No shortcuts, no player-driven alliances, just work. Then things got personal and fast. The debate spilled off the screen in March 2025 during a Lakers versus Knicks game. LeBron reportedly approached Stephen A. courtside and told him, "Stop messing with my son. That's my son." The moment went viral instantly. That confrontation traced back to comments Stephen A. made earlier in January 2025 on First Take. After Bronny James went scoreless in extended minutes against Philadelphia, Smith said, "I am pleading with LeBron James as a father. Stop this." He later clarified he was criticizing LeBron's decisions as a parent, not attacking Bronny personally. Stephen A. doubled down on one point, though. He believed Bronny was placed in an unfair spotlight too early, a pressure cooker no young player should have to carry. And this is where the controversy took its darkest turn. Some of the backlash shifted toward Bronny, which crossed lines for many fans. Critics began mixing frustration over LeBron's comments about Jordan with broader debates about opportunity and expectations. The question being tossed around wasn't fair, but it was loud. How could LeBron laugh at the game's past while his own family was under intense scrutiny in the present? That tension sent the debate into overdrive.
We got Nepo Baby. Homelander Jr., because LeBron is Homelander 1. Homelander Jr. sat out a preseason game,
pushing basketball talk into emotional territory where loyalty, legacy, and responsibility all collided at once. Bronny James ended up stuck right in the crossfire, and that's easily the most uncomfortable part of this entire saga. This is a young player just trying to build his own lane in a league where his father cast one of the biggest shadows ever. And now, because of a podcast moment he had nothing to do with, he became the target for years of bottled-up frustration from Jordan loyalists. Let's be clear about Bronny's situation. He was drafted 55th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in 2024. That came after a modest freshman season at USC, where he averaged 4.8 points per game, a year heavily affected by his recovery from a serious medical emergency. Context matters, and that often gets ignored. Critics argue that without LeBron's influence as a pending free agent, Bronny likely wouldn't have been drafted at all, especially not by his father's team. The nepotism accusations followed him immediately, the second his name was called on draft night. That moment also made history. Bronny and LeBron became the first father-son duo to appear together in an NBA game, debuting on opening night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Historic, emotional, and controversial all at once. Then came the agent angle. Rich Paul of Clutch Sports, who also represents LeBron, reportedly warned teams not to draft Bronny, suggesting he would play overseas in Australia if selected elsewhere. That move allegedly scared off other teams and cleared the lane for the Lakers to grab him, and the contract only added more fuel to the fire. Bronny signed a 4-year, $7.9 million fully guaranteed deal with a team option in the 4th year. That's far more secure than what late second-round picks usually get. Most players taken around 55th overall end up on 2-way contracts, partial guarantees, or short-term deals. But Rich Paul reportedly rejected 2-way options outright before the draft. He pushed for a standard NBA roster spot and guaranteed money.
And this ain't year 1, this is year 2. This is year 2. This don't make no sense. We got high school players better than Bronny. Absolutely got high school players better than Bronny. Bronny was never the best high school player on his team. He was never the best college player on his team. And he still gets 12 shots in a preseason game where everybody's auditioning, where nobody normally passes the ball.
All of that combined made Bronny the easiest target in the room. Fair or not, every frustration about legacy, opportunity, and power started getting aimed his way, even though he never asked to be part of this debate in the first place. Kwame Brown even went as far as coining a nickname for Bronny that spread through certain corners of basketball internet culture. He never held back, and that label became a symbol for everything critics believe is wrong with how Bronny entered the league. The name itself mattered less than the message behind it, and that message stuck. The reality of Bronny's 2024 to 2025 season painted a clear picture of a player still trying to find solid ground at the NBA level. He appeared in roughly 27 to 30 games, averaging around 1.9 to 2.3 points, 0.6 to 0.9 rebounds, and 1.5 to 1.8 assists in just 6 to 9 minutes per game. His shooting numbers were rough, hovering near 30% from the field and under 30% from 3. Most of his NBA minutes came in blowouts, late game situations, or brief stints when injuries opened the door. The production was limited, and critics wasted no time jumping on it. After a particularly rough preseason game against the Phoenix Suns, where Bronny went 1 for 12 from the field and 1 for 8 from 3, Kwame Brown said he'd seen enough. That performance became a breaking point for him. But Brown's criticism went deeper than box scores. He questioned the narrative that Bronny was already NBA ready because of defense. After reviewing film from a Lakers game against the Portland Trail Blazers, where Bronny logged extended minutes but didn't score, Brown pointed out specific defensive breakdowns. To him, those moments showed fundamental issues that couldn't be ignored. Still, the story didn't end there. Down in the G League with the South Bay Lakers, Bronny looked like a completely different player. In about 11 games, playing roughly 34 minutes per night, he averaged around 21.9 points, 5.2 rebounds, 5.4 assists, and 1.9 steals. The confidence was obvious. He dropped 30 points on December 12th, 2024, then followed it with a career-high 31 points on January 24th, 2025, and later exploded for a season-best 39 points, adding 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, and a block against the Santa Cruz Warriors.
I'm watching a kid that they say is a defensive specialist, and they run the simple handoff at the three-point line. This guy is not a shooter that he's guarding. The Suns is a horrible team, and I watched Bronny James chase the guy around the top of the three-point line, and the guy get a backdoor layup. For people that are saying that he's a defensive specialist, how? He don't even know regular defensive concepts.
Lakers head coach J.J. Redick took notice. After Bronny's 17-point NBA outing in March, Redick praised his work ethic and upside, saying, "He certainly is going to be an NBA player." That comment didn't end the debate, but it made one thing clear. The story of Bronny James was still being written, whether critics liked it or not. But for critics like Kwame Brown, none of that development mattered at all. To him, the G League wasn't the NBA, and Bronny's struggles at the highest level said everything. In Brown's eyes, politics, not talent, opened that roster spot, and no breakout performance down south was going to change that belief. At the same time, the GOAT debate that Kevin Durant accidentally reignited kept spreading like wildfire. Every platform, every timeline, every sports show was locked in. Michael Jordan's case has always been simple and brutal. 6 NBA Finals appearances, 6 championships, 6 Finals MVPs, 0 losses on the biggest stage. He averaged 30.1 points per game for his career, the highest in NBA history, and an absurd 33.4 points per game in the playoffs. 10 scoring titles, a Defensive Player of the Year award. That resume doesn't blink. Jordan wasn't just dominant, he was relentless. He thrived on competition. He broke opponents mentally and never let a final series reach Game 7. To many, that killer instinct alone separates him from everyone else. LeBron's argument hits from a different angle. Versatility, longevity, a 6'9" forward who can score, pass, rebound, and defend all 5 positions. He has led teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks across multiple final series.
I love my boy. I love him. Yeah. But when Michael Jordan took off with that tongue out, hold up, listen, because a lot of you wasn't born then. 1991 against my Lakers, right hand. We thought we had him. He looked as we went down. He switched it to the left hand. Tongue went left. Spun it against the glass and good. There's nobody alive that's been able to do just that. That boy is too bad, I'm telling you right now. But LeBron is a bad boy too. He's a bad boy, but he's not Michael.
The 2016 comeback against the 73-win Warriors still stands as one of the greatest feats in sports history. LeBron owns the all-time scoring record. He has more All-NBA selections than anyone ever at 21. But for many observers, that 4-6 finals record still can't match Jordan's flawless 6-0. Then Magic Johnson added gasoline to the fire. Speaking at InvestFest in Atlanta in September 2025, Magic recalled a moment from the 1991 finals that locked Jordan's greatness in his mind forever. One single play that showed athleticism, intelligence, and pure ruthlessness all in one flash. And Magic didn't hesitate. He made his stance clear once again. It's Michael Jordan, then LeBron, then Kareem, he said. We haven't seen anybody do the things that Michael could do. And just like that, the debate stayed alive. No resolution, no peace. Just legends, legacy, and a basketball world still arguing over who truly sits alone at the top. Magic Johnson didn't dismiss LeBron at all. He praised him as special, acknowledged him as a bad boy in his own right, and gave him full respect. But when it came time to draw the final line, Magic stood firm. When it's all said and done for him, it's still MJ at the top. Shaquille O'Neal, who actually battled both legends, added something numbers could never explain. Shaq talked about fear, not respect, not admiration, but real fear. The kind Michael Jordan put into opponents before the game even tipped off. Shaq described the shift from watching Jordan on posters to lining up across from him on the court. He said Jordan brought a level of psychological pressure that stats will never capture. You felt it. And once you felt it, you understood why MJ was different. The debate doesn't stop at basketball either. It stretches into culture, branding, and legacy. Jordan's untouched GOAT status for over 2 decades helped turn the Jordan brand into a billion-dollar empire. In fiscal year 2025 alone, the brand generated around $6.6 billion in revenue. That dominance shaped global sneaker culture forever. LeBron's lifetime Nike deal, worth over $1 billion, reflects unmatched longevity and consistency. But the constant, not quite Jordan framing has limited how dominant his signature line became culturally.
He's the only man that had me terrified on the court. Because I went from high school admiring him, college admiring him, and then he's right there in front of you. And all the shit you see on your poster, like he's doing it in real life. Like he came by me so fast one time, I was like, oh. Mike, yeah, I was terrified. But once
Still, the gap is shrinking. Player polls show Jordan's lead narrowing. One survey had Jordan at 45.9%, with LeBron's support rising fast, especially among younger fans. A generation raised on spacing, pace, and longevity sees greatness differently. And that's what this controversy really exposed. Not just a GOAT debate, but a generational divide. Different definitions of greatness, how personal tragedy shapes legacy, and how modern narrative control can completely backfire when it crashes into raw history and emotion. Kevin Durant and LeBron James thought they were having a relaxed talk about career commitment. What they actually did was pour gasoline on a fire that's been burning for over 20 years. And in the chaos, Bronny James got pulled into a storm he never asked for. A storm that had nothing to do with his character or who he is as a person. So now the questions hang in the air. Will Durant's clarification that he respects Jordan be enough to cool things down? Will LeBron's laughter fade with time? And most importantly, can Bronny carve his own path and escape the shadow of a debate that has nothing to do with him? Only time will answer that. But one thing is locked in forever. In the battle between Jordan's perfection and LeBron's longevity, there are no winners, only endless debates, passionate defenders, and a game we all love that keeps bringing us back. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who lives for basketball debates, and drop a comment with your take on the GOAT conversation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.